Good morning, everyone. Welcome to morning meeting. And today we are joined with Leo, our long-eared owl ambassador. As always, let me know where you guys are tuning in from today. If you guys have any questions, I'd certainly love to answer them. But we're just gonna hang out with Mr. Leo this morning. Right, Mr. Handsome? And so Leo is actually pretty old for a long-eared owl. He's our little old man. So he is about 15 years old, which is pretty old for these guys. They are a smaller owl. They're not generally as longer lived as compared to some of our other species. So Leo doesn't do a whole lot of programming anymore. He only goes to really adult groups, just because he doesn't really like all the commotion, and he is old, so he has some vision problems. Right? He's our little old man. Hi, Dad. Yeah, as always, let me know where you guys are tuning in from so we can say good morning to everyone. Right, Mr. Leo? So long-eared owls, we do see them here in Maine, but generally because they are migrating through. So normally they're found up in the boreal forest of northern Canada, and they'll actually fly down to the mid-Atlantic southern United States during the wintertime just to get a little bit warmer. So we only see them a couple weeks a year, generally. So it's miraculous that he is with us. Good morning, Susan from Wyndham. Hello. So Leo was actually hit by a car when he was migrating through. So he only weighs about a third of a pound or so. So he's considered a small owl. So he has wings that are about double the length of his body. So if I can get him to show you those really long wings. Yeah. I know, sorry. They're very, very long. He has a very tiny little body under there. For those of you guys that have seen our Owl Prowl programs, good morning, Kim. If you've seen the picture that we use for a fluted edge, that's actually a super blown up picture of Leo's wings. So Leo has this beautiful fluted edge to his long primary feathers, and so we use his feathers as that example in that picture. You can see all those little finger-like projections coming off the side, and that's what help him have silent flight in the wild. He's also very, very fluffy. Right, handsome? Yeah. So his name is quite funny. He is called a long-eared owl. But when he raises and lowers his little tufts, sorry, they are just feathers. So he can raise them and lower them depending on his mood. I know you're looking at me, so what if I do this so that you're looking at the camera-ish? Yeah. So he does have quite long little feather tufts on the top of his head. They're going to help him for camouflage, just like Lucy, our eastern screech owl. So he has ears that are, if you can see, the brown ring around his face. And a little tan ring right behind that little tan ring, there's his ear slits. So he has one that's going to be high and one that's going to be low. They are at a diagonal because our owls have incredible hearing, much, much better than we can. We estimate our owls can hear about a mouse from about a football field away under a couple feet of snow. So their hearing is much better than ours. So he's just going to use those for camouflage to blend in. He is a secondary predator just like Lucy is. So he hunts, but he's also hunted by our larger owls. And so he wants to blend in and camouflage, and these guys in particular will only be out in the dead middle of the night. Because they are so small, they are worried about predators. So he's only be out when it's really, really dark and quiet out, just to keep himself safe. He is very, very handsome, Susan and Paulette. He's so handsome. Good morning, Kim from Kittery. Good morning, Naomi from Rhode Island. Oh, I don't know what happened. Sorry, there you go. Yeah, our owls, they're adapted to hunt at night. They're nocturnal. And so they have that silent flight so that other owls don't hear them moving around or their prey doesn't hear them coming. And they're going to use that camouflage to blend into their environment with those feather tufts. He's going to use those big ol' eyes that he has. So most of our owls here do have some sort of yellow ring in their eyes, just like Leo does. But those eyes are about a third of their head. So it's kind of like us having oranges or grapefruits. We would look ridiculous on us, but those eyes have a lot more rods and cones and those parts of the eye than we do to help them have that night vision. We also believe that they can see into the UV, so they can see a mouse running around when it urinates. We believe that they can see that little urine trail. So their vision is incredible, but they are going to use that hearing mostly for hunting, and just, if not more than their vision. Sue, can I hold a hand up to the relative side? Yes. So he, about the size of my head. So he's very, very tiny, though his wings are much, much longer. Right? Oh, that's a good angle to show those off. Yeah, so those wings are easily 2.5 times larger than his body itself. So he's only about a third of a pound. He's very small. He only has, he usually has like 50 or 60 grams on Lucy. So not much bigger, just his wings definitely make up for it. Right? Nyakashi on this wing right here, so he has that little waxy tube right there and there. So he is currently molting, just like all of our raptors, and so he's replacing his couple of his primary feathers. So he's going to use his beak to kind of wipe off all that little waxy tube on the dead part. Sometimes we do have to help him just because he is older, he's injured, and he can't always reach some of those spots on his wing. So we do help him sometimes, but only when it's dead and when it's ready, and he certainly lets us know when it's not ready. So you can see actually in the feather shaft where the blood kind of stops, and so once the blood stops flowing, that means the feather is grown and healthy and it's ready to be exposed. And so once the feather shaft is dead on the end, that's when they'll start breaking off the end peats, and then the blood will recede, essentially. So that their feather grows all nice and pretty. Right? Very long wings, yes, Sue. Say hello, Naomi. Good morning, Jenna. Sue, Lucy is the eastern screech owl. Our northern saw-whet owl ambassador is Artemis. She is fully retired, so she doesn't do really any off-site programming. She has been on some of these Facebook Lives, but we don't bring her to schools or anything just because we know she's fully blind. So she's a little old lady, so she's about 6 years old, which is pretty old for a saw-whet owl. So she gets to just live with us in sanctuary and relax, and she goes on walks to get some sun, but she has a very calm life. And Lucy is our 2-year-old eastern screech owl ambassador. Right? You're the little old man. Right, Leo? Can you show off your... Thanks. Oh, sorry. Oh, now we're all flustered. Oh, sorry, buddy. So I'm going to bring the camera around so you guys can see his gorgeous coloring that he has. So he has that little tan face, his facial disc. So where that brown tan ring is around his face, that's going to point sound down into his middle ear, so he has help with that incredible hearing. Little big ol' eyes. And you can see all of his little bristles around his beak. So all those little feathers that are right there, they're going to use them for sensory. Our owls don't have great up-close vision, so they're going to use them to sense their food when they're that close. So Lucy's sweet. I've seen her on the Facebook Lives as well. Oh, thank you, Sue. I'm really glad that you're enjoying hanging out with us. We've been obviously doing these every day since March now. So we're really grateful that you guys are still choosing to hang out with us every day. Feeling the love. So thank you guys. Beautiful coloring. It has some like tannish gold, these speckles. So sometimes we get calls about people thinking that these guys are baby great horned owls, just because their coloring is a lot similar, on their wings at least. But he is much bigger than, or much smaller than a baby great horned owl. For those of you that may have seen any of the Facebook posts, it's been probably a while since we had them. I think there was a picture around Father's Day where we had a picture of our two baby great horned owlets that are still being fostered by Galileo and Gaia, our two great horned owl ambassadors. But they are much, much larger even as babies. He has much longer wings than them, and they do have the little feather tufts just like Leo. Their back coloring is pretty similar, but when they're babies, obviously they don't have this adult plumage like Leo does. So the babies are like little whitish gray fluff balls for a pretty long time, until they start to grow those adult feathers, which our two foster babies now have. So they are pretty well flighted now, so they're going to hang out for probably another month or so, with Galileo and Gaia, and then they're going to be released, so that's really exciting. Rob, are his feathers soft or rough? They are very, very soft. So owls have very soft feathers, kind of like a downy comforter or downy pillow, and that helps them with that silent flight. Just like how he has the fluted edge, right, all those little finger-like projections down the front side of his wing. So all those fingers break up the wind as they fly, as he flaps his wings. But all those really soft feathers also help control that silent flight. So between the two of them, that's how they can get around without their prey or their predators hearing them. Right? You're so cute. Yeah, so Leo was hit by a car, unfortunately, when he was passing through on that was sassy. Passing through on migration. Good morning, Ryan. Welcome. So we don't see these guys too often here. They are only passing through for a couple weeks, generally throughout the year, in the spring and fall migration seasons. So he was unfortunately hit when he was passing through, and that's why he's non-releasable. So he does have a wing injury. He can't get around very well. So that's why he lives with us. He's been with us since 2007. So he's at least about 15, and so he's our little old man. Right? Which is why he only goes to, why he only goes to, like, adult, high school, college, groups. We don't generally bring him to younger groups unless we really have to, just because he really likes that calm environment, and sometimes like a little preschool class could be a little stressful for him with a lot going on. So we do try to keep him as happy and calm as comfortable, just like all of our ambassadors. We don't want them stressed out when they're out on a program or anything. So he generally only goes to adult groups. You're semi-retired, but yeah, but you're still handsome though. There's something really easy that we can all do, however, to help keep our raptors, just like Leo, safe. It's by keeping our food scraps in our cars so we get to wherever we're going. Because I will openly admit it, I used to do it. I'd throw my apple cores, banana peels, french fries, that kind of stuff out the window. If they were food, they were going to biodegrade, they were going to go back into the earth. But what really happens instead is that a mouse or a squirrel or some sort of small mammal, small rodent, is going to come to the side of the road, start munching on that food, and our raptors don't know when they're going to get their next meal. They see that food out in the open, and they get tunnel vision, they swoop right down. They don't learn to look both ways and cross the road like we do, so they often do get hit by cars because that's where their food is. So even, it's amazing that he did survive a car accident at a third of a pound in weight. So it's something just really easy that we can all do to help keep these guys safe, as well as being conscious of how we're taking care of our own rodent control in our home. So if you have an exterminator tell you that they're using a clean rodenticide, there is no such thing. We honestly recommend snap traps. It's the safest, it's the fastest, and it's not going to impact any other level of the food chain. So what happens with, just like, for those of you that have heard of Rachel Carson or rodenticide or DDT use, why our eagles, our peregrines, a lot of our raptors were endangered because the DDT was making their eggshells breakable when the mom sat on them, because the bugs would eat the chemical. The raptors would eat the birds that were eating the bugs, and then it bioaccumulated and they got it in their bodies. So they eat those mice or rodents that have rodenticide in them. What generally happens, because it's not a fast death with those chemicals, they're going to usually hemorrhage, they're going to be really dizzy and just kind of go around in circles, and they're not going anywhere. And so a raptor sees that, and that's really easy prey. So they eat those mice, those that have those chemicals in them, and then it kills the owls and the raptors the same exact way. So it's a very common reason why we get patients, unfortunately, or especially raptors, because of rodenticides in their system. And it can be really difficult once they hit a certain point. If they've had too many mice that have had those chemicals, there's really not a whole lot we can do besides keep them comfortable until we do make the best decision for them. So it's another way that we can all be really conscious of what we're doing, keeping our wildlife safe, be mindful of our trash, and then how we're taking care of our rodents and pests and stuff like that. Peter, yeah, he wants to taste my fingers. So even though he is a small owl, we do still use a nice thick leather glove for him, because he still has those talons, he still has that nice sharp hook beak. He is still a raptor, even though he's small, and so we do use the glove. Sometimes he does use his beak to kind of help himself balance, because of his age. Sometimes he can have some problems with that as well. Or sometimes he just bites the glove because he's trying to get himself settled and he's annoyed. But it really just depends. We're so handsome, Leo. Right? So these guys are unique, because they will easy. So with those wings. Easy. They will roost actually communally and together. So they will have up to 50 to 100 owls, or long-eared owls, roosting all together, which is not common in the owl or raptor world. But they're unique in that sense, and their call is not, more like the stereotypical whoo 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 call that sometimes we think of with owls. So he's very, very quiet generally, because he is small. He would be wanting to be silent until the middle of the night, so we generally don't hear him talking too much, unless he's annoyed. And usually that's when we'll get the beak clack, which is common for owls, and he might go whoo, while we're trying to get him jest, when he's not necessarily up for it, especially if he knows he has to go to get a health check, which is no one's favorite. So, but he's generally pretty quiet. Good morning, Anne from Topsfield. Welcome. We have Leo, our long-eared owl ambassador, with us today. Can you sit up, please? Leo. Trying to put you close to the camera, but then you're fine. Ooh, nice poop. Okay. So see him looking a lot at me, because of his vision issues. He's hearing, just like a lot of our owls, you'll notice they do look at us when we're talking. So he does especially tend to look. That's why I keep moving the camera, just trying to get him to look at you guys, because I get to see you all day. No one else does. Alright. What, Leo? Also try not to hit his feathers, because his new feathers are coming in quite nicely, so I don't want him to break his new feathers. Which is a comment. Ooh, you're fine. We're just gonna sit. I tried to put him, I have a little perch over here. I tried to get him to sit on, but he's like, I would just rather sit on the glove. I know what's going on. And you were fortunate to see a long-eared in the wild. That's awesome. Yeah, you're really lucky. They are really rare to see. Just because they're small, they're worried about predators. They're going to use those feather tufts and that beautiful coloring that he has to blend in. So that's awesome that you got to see one in the wild. Not many people can say that, and so you're really, really lucky. All right, Leo. You're so handsome. Oh my gosh, that face. Leo. You gonna let me show you off your beautiful color? Right now he has no tail. No tail feathers. They're coming. He's molting his tail feathers right now, so he has a bare bum right now. You can see those little tiny talons. Very, very strong, though. So these guys will take small birds and small mammals, or small owls if they have to. But he does generally prefer mice and small mammals. He, as an individual here at the center in particular, is quite picky. So Leo will only eat brown or black mice, black chicks. So he's the only one of our ambassador family who we can't just give any mouse to. They have to be brown or black, or he won't eat them. It's kind of like Zipper, our corn snake ambassador, who will only eat live food because he doesn't recognize dead food as food. Leo doesn't recognize white mice as food, which does make sense, just because in the wild you're not going to find a white mouse. It's not normal. It's not going to be beneficial in the wild. So white mice are lab mice. They're not normally in the wild, so he doesn't recognize that they're food. Of course, he was in the wild at one point before he came to us, so it makes sense. But he's the only one that's picky enough to make a deal out of it. He will not touch them if they're white. Thank you so much for donating, Anne. That's really sweet of you. As always, we are a nonprofit. We don't receive funding for the work we do. So we are very grateful for donations just like yours. We couldn't do our work without you. To help take care of our 30 ambassadors or our 2,000 plus patients that we take into our wildlife clinic, our medical clinic every single year. So we couldn't do our work without people just like you, Anne. So thank you so much. We're really grateful for your donation. Rob, how long does the molting process take? So it depends. They're going to generally start molting after the young are starting to become like branchlings and start to kind of venture a little off on their own. That's when mom and dad have the energy to molt and replace those feathers. It takes a lot of energy to do that. So they're not going to do it when they're in the middle of breeding season or right after the young hatch. They're going to get those young off to a good start, and then they're going to start molting. They don't replace all their feathers every single year. They will replace chunks, just because it does hinder their ability to fly and get around. When they molt their primary feathers, they generally will be grounded for a couple days, until they're fully, until they can start to get around a little bit better. He just started really, like, he molted a little bit earlier, but he hasn't molted too much. On Thursday, I had someone ask whether or not the boys and girls molted at different times, which is actually something we have seen with our ambassador owls, like Fern, our barred owl ambassador, Lucy, our screech owl. They are pretty much done molting, where our boys definitely started later. Leo is currently in the middle. Byron, our male barred owl, is currently in the middle. So definitely think something cool to think about. But they'll staggeredly molt throughout the summer. So depending on where they're replacing, so they'll look like a really bad hair day if you guys saw pictures of Lucy from about a month ago. So her, from losing her head, all of her head feathers, to looking like now she looks completely normal again. It takes about a month for them to fully come out and look nice and pretty again. But she was a little rough for a while. Good morning, Michelle. Welcome. Say hello, Leo. So as always, thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys have any last questions, I can certainly answer them. But otherwise, we're going to let Leo go back and hang out outside, get everyone else fed this morning. So as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in. We're really grateful that you guys are still hanging out with us every single day, and we're still enjoying it, and I hope you guys are too. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day, everyone. Say bye, Leo.